Great, thank you. And as it says on there, yeah, if you have any questions throughout, just drop a note in the chat. Nil will be keeping an eye on that, or even just kind of um, take yourself off mute, put your hand up, or just kind of uh, yeah, feel free to ask it questions at any point during the session. So what we'll cover in the session this morning is just a brief overview of the program and what it involves. Um, I'll talk a little bit about the carbon footprint estimate, which forms a kind of a central part of the program, and something that as school business managers, you will yeah the need to provide a little bit of support with. I want to talk a little bit about cost savings as well, because often what's discussed around reducing carbon footprint and taking measures on sustainability, people assume that there are costs involved, but actually there are lots of places where cost savings could be made along with carbon reductions. A little bit about sustainable suppliers that we work with and we encourage schools to use. How it all fits in with national climate education initiatives. And then there'll be an opportunity for a bit of discussion with other people to kind of share your experiences and your thoughts so you can learn from each other before we finish. And then there'll be an opportunity for any questions. But as I say, if you have any questions throughout, then drop it in the chat or come off mute and just interrupt and ask. Will be totally fine. So I'll pass over to Neil to start off with just a little overview of the program.
Great, thank you, Henry. Yeah, just a little overview of what your schools are involved in this academic year. So you're taking part in the Zero Carbon Schools program, and through this program, your schools receive pupil sessions which are delivered throughout the whole of the academic year. They would have started these sessions just after October half term. You will also be taking part in two full staff CPD sessions. Each school will send us data so that we can then provide an estimate of your school's carbon footprint, which Henry is going to go into a lot more detail in shortly, and then also support to involve the wider school community in trying to tackle the climate crisis as well. So last year, 130 schools took part in the programme, and we've got over 170 schools on the programme this year, some of whom have done the programme before, as I've seen in the chat. Some of you've taken part before, some will be new as well, though. So just more of a breakdown into the pupil sessions and what the program actually entails. So the aim of the program is to empower young people to reduce their school's carbon emissions. So the first stage of the program is called the Explore stage. So this is where pupils learn about the sort of causes and effects of the climate crisis more broadly, how it impacts the world. And yeah, that's all about kind of just allowing them to really understand what the situation is. Then the second stage is the investigate stage. So this is where pupils learn about kind of where our carbon emissions come from, and we will calculate, as I said, an estimate of each school's carbon footprint, which then they receive a kind of bespoke maths worksheets to help work that out. And yeah, each school's got their carbon footprint poster as well to put up. Then the third stage of the program is the kind of main stage. This is the ACT stage. So this is where pupils design and lead projects to reduce their school's carbon footprint. And there's a wide range of different things that pupils come up with and the teachers support them to do. And then the final stage of the program in the summer term is the Inspire stage. So this is about really kind of broadening the impact and trying to influence the local community to take climate action, having been inspired by what the students have been doing. So yeah, they're really pupil-led sessions that encourage pupils to take action themselves and to feel empowered and feel like they actually can make a difference to the climate crisis and not just feel kind of we don't know what we can do to help. But then also they're all kind of cross-curricular sessions, so can be delivered in curriculum time, most are, that develop their knowledge and skills, yeah, through the programme.
Sorry, I muted myself while I was coughing. Thanks, Nell. So yeah, as Nell said, the main aspect of the program is these pupil sessions. When we were in touch with schools around coordinating the program, we were in touch with a school coordinator who might be your school sustainability lead, normally a teacher in the school. And they do the most of the coordinating around the program and ensuring that the pupil sessions are delivered throughout the year. With this program, it's all kind of delivered remotely. We have, as Neil mentioned, over 170 schools have signed up for the program, so they're all around the country. We do provide a few visits to some schools where there's funding available for that, but mostly the program is delivered remotely. So we provide the resources and kind of online and remote support for teachers in your schools to deliver these sessions. Um, what the other aspects, as Noel mentioned, is that the teacher training and support to involve the local community. But the whole program is framed around this idea of reducing the school's carbon footprint. So a key element of it is actually doing that carbon footprint estimate. Um, in all the rationale really that we had with this was in Green Schools Project prior to the Zero Carbon Schools program, we supported schools to kind of run environmental projects. But what we wanted to do through this program is really encourage the pupils to take on those projects which are going to have the biggest impact on tackling climate change, and by doing that, they need to focus on the areas that are going to actually kind of reduce the carbon footprint. So we developed a kind of a method for calculating an estimate of the school's carbon footprint, and we divided the carbon emissions up into four different areas. So energy, travel, purchasing, and food. In the pupil sessions, they investigate those different areas so that they understand actually, why does the school's use of energy create carbon emissions? Why does travel to and from school create carbon emissions? Purchasing another one. All the things that we use and buy, have a carbon footprint, and often they're quite surprised by the purchasing and particularly food, like which foods create more carbon emissions than others. Um, so the pupils kind of investigate those things. In some cases, they can actually get involved with collecting some of the data. For example, for the travel section, essentially the data that we need is the number of pupils and staff who the different ways that they get to and from school, whether they drive, whether they get the bus, whether they walk or cycle. So they could get involved with doing kind of hands up surveys in the different classes and finding out from teachers how they get to and from school. So they can be involved with that. But quite a lot of this information is required to be coordinated and collated and brought together. We work with the school coordinator to do that. But your role as a school business manager could be very helpful. For example, if the school has a travel plan, that could be used for the travel data. And kind of most specifically in the purchasing section, the information that we need is essentially a kind of a report on the spend according to different categories. Now, if you could just drop the online tool link in the chat so that people can have a quick look at that. What we last year for the first time we had this we developed an online tool to collect the data for this. The first page on that online tool is the instructions of what data you need to collect, and then you can scroll through the different sections of as to what's required. Um, um, as I said, energy is another example where there's a couple of options in what you can enter for energy. If you have your annual electricity and gas usage, then that's the most effective thing to put in, and then we can get an accurate estimate there. If you don't have that information, you can look it up through a display using your display energy certificate, and there's instructions on how to look that up. Um, um, and so that's something that you'd be able to support with. And then yeah, you can have a look through the other sessions. So the other sections rather. So really this kind of carbon footprint estimate is something for the school coordinator and for you to kind of coordinate with in order to do it. We designed it specifically for schools, and we used a sustainability consultant to make sure it's kind of robust and the methodology is accurate and it's coming out with a reasonable estimate. Um, and and so um, yeah, so yeah, the more you can kind of help with that, then the better for the program, and it really kind of grounds the program in what is actually the case for the school. The other benefit of doing this is that obviously we really encourage schools to kind of participate in the program year on year. And then if you do this process once each year, then you should hopefully start to see reductions. You should start to see the impacts of the actions that you're taking, and to a certain extent the impacts of the actions that the pupils are taking as well in their projects. Um, we have made it as kind of as simple as we can. We need a bit of detail in order to calculate a reasonable estimate, but we've tried to make it the process as simple as possible, so you're not kind of having to dig around and find too much data or spend too long on a process because we know you're all very busy. Um, if you've got any issues with any of those sections, there's my email address is on the tool, so please just drop me a line. We've had hundreds of schools kind of like going through this process, so it's normally fairly quick to kind of provide a bit of support with this. The last thing to say about this is that as you can see on the carbon footprint poster there, there are the different sections are kind of rated green, amber, red. And that is just in comparison to other schools on the program. We have, as we have 170 schools on the program now, there's kind of enough data to compare to say that you're similar to most schools, lower or higher in each of the different sections. We don't give an overall rating because we think that actually, if you're doing this, you're already, you're ahead of the vast majority of schools who haven't calculated their carbon footprint. And also that's the case if you come up with kind of categories which are red, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that there's probably more likely to be a bigger scope for reductions than areas which are green, where you're already kind of doing better than most schools on the program. In terms of completing this, we're nearly ready. I think you probably could start entering data onto the tool now, but there's just a few tweaks and kind of just making sure that everything is okay. So it will definitely be ready for completion from next week, from the 24th of November. And then the deadline for completion for this is the end of January. So you've got plenty of time to complete this, like find out the information and complete it. And there will be a support session if you've kind of started doing some of this and I'm not sure you want some more detailed support with what we're going to do. We'll have a support session in January around that. So that's the carbon footprint. What it's so important for us. Obviously, we understand schools' context, and schools' context in terms of funding has been extremely challenging ever since we started the Zero Carbon Schools program in sort of 2020, 2021. School budgets seem to just get kind of more and more squeezed, and so any way that we can support schools through this to actually reduce their costs, we're really keen to sort of support with this. And the section of the carbon footprint that is most kind of aligns with cost reductions is the energy section, because obviously the more energy you use, the higher your bills, the bigger costs for the schools. And in our experience, just through a kind of a behavior change activities, a saving of 5%, 10% is realistically achievable, which could be saving hundreds or hundreds of pounds, potentially thousands of pounds, and certainly thousands of pounds for secondary schools. Um, my experience from this actually, um, way before Zero Carbon Schools and before I even started Green Schools Project, I was a secondary school teacher, working as a sustainability lead, and we ran a kind of a whole school energy saving campaign, engaging the site team, the pupils, staff, and we managed to save the school £35,000 over 3 years. So, significant amounts of money can be saved through relatively simple measures. And in terms of energy, the top tips really is just making sure that the heating settings are set right. Obviously, it's very cold this week, so your heating is probably going to be working pretty hard. But just making sure that when it's working hard in the middle of winter, you're trying to get the classrooms to about 18 degrees rather than kind of 20. Sometimes I've been to schools who have kind of set their classroom temperatures to sort of 22, 23, 24 degrees, and there's lots and lots of money is being wasted there because that's it just doesn't need to be that warm. And also, if you set the temperature to 18 degrees and you have 30 children in there, then the temperature will actually be above 18 degrees. Um, so yeah, we have kind of recommendations, and these are kind of agreed by the Department for Education and Let's Go Zero, who I'll mention a bit later. But the recommendations are 18 degrees for classrooms. That might, if you're going from 20 or 21, that might feel a bit chilly. But even if you just reduce it by 1 or 2 degrees, and I would strongly recommend 20 or below. Um, it will, yeah, potentially save considerable amounts of money. The other thing is timers. Like it's, I know from experience, a lot of schools kind of set their heating to come on like 2, 3 hours before the school day starts. It's really not necessary. Just having the heating on will make the classrooms feel kind of warmer. So I would strongly recommend having the heating come on, maybe half an hour before people come into the building is fine, and making sure that the heating goes off kind of it can go off probably before people start leaving. So making sure that you're kind of shortening the amount of time that the school's getting heated by as much as possible. Um, a nice little activity for pupils is actually monitoring the temperatures. You can get kind of little stick-on wall thermometers. We've done this with lots of schools, and then they can kind of see clearly that they have little sort of colors on them, which kind of light up when they're about right, kind of too hot, too cool, and so on. And then the pupils can get involved with actually monitoring the temperatures to make sure that they're about right. And then just getting them involved with a switch off campaign. This could be addressed to electricity as well, so making sure the lights and the projectors are switched off at lunch times. Um, all of these things can help save the school money on energy costs. Um, then another thing to kind of point out to you, and Nell, if you could just drop in the chat the project support organizations document. This is provided in our kind of support materials. And again, what we've done as much as possible, we've tried to look for organizations which can actually save money, um, help you to save money in those four different areas of energy, travel, food, and purchasing. I've mentioned about kind of energy and kind of heating settings in particular. But there are bigger things that the school can do to help kind of reduce its carbon footprint, but also save money. Um, sort of infrastructure things like mm, when we mention to schools solar panels, a lot of schools will say to us, "Oh, well, we can't afford solar panels. It's just not possible. Like, we don't have the funding for that." But we work very closely with an organisation called Solar for Schools, We're actually an educational delivery partner for them. So for a number of schools, when they sign up for Solar for Schools, we actually provide an educational visit with kind of workshops and an assembly for them. And their funding model is one such that they kind of raise the funding externally through bonds. I don't really know how the finance of it works, but it means that the school doesn't have to pay for the panels themselves, and they get paid off during the lifetime of the solar panels. Um, and you pay for the electricity that comes from them, but it is at a reduced rate than the kind of standard electricity tariff. So the school doesn't have to pay for the solar panels up front, and also benefits from a reduced electricity rate for any electricity that comes from the solar panels. So it's a double win really. And then on top of that, they have an educational program to kind of involve the pupils. So they're a really fantastic organization that works only for schools. So that's how they're designed. So strongly recommend having a look at them. Another kind of a big potential win, I think most schools have started to do this, if not done it completely, is ensuring that your school's fitted out with LED lights. LED lighting is about kind of 80 to 90% more efficient than the old kind of fluorescent bulbs. And there's ways of financing that as well. If the school doesn't have the kind of upfront funding, there's ways of financing that. There's an organisation on that project support list, which can help you to do that. But there's lots others out there as well. And again, once you've kind of fitted the whole school with LED lights, your electricity bills will reduce significantly. Um, Other areas that we've got suggestions are kind of in travel. There are active travel organisations which can help you get more pupils and staff walking and cycling and using active travel methods. Um, in the food section, yeah, there's just one organisation who yeah, I strongly recommend, called Pro Veg, and they have a school plates campaign, which supports schools to kind of really look at their menu, and ensure that it is as sustainable as possible. So it has as many plant-based options as possible. Reducing the amount of meat-based options, but also kind of just giving equal priority to it. I have first-hand experience of that with my son goes to, we're in Waltham Forest, and they have won awards actually, and they've worked very closely with ProVeg on their sustainability of their menu. And you look at the menu, and there's no kind of hierarchy. Normally in kind of years ago, the meat option was first, the vegetarian option was second, or third, and often wasn't kind of very appealing. So actually, yeah, just kind of working on the menu to make the veggie options more appealing, and give them kind of equal priority, can go a long way to actually, yeah, making your school menu more sustainable. And then finally, the last section is purchasing, and really, I mean, in terms of the carbon footprint, the less you spend in each of the sections in purchasing, then the lower your carbon footprint will be. Obviously, that's you can't run a school purely on just kind of minimizing its costs, because obviously there's lots of things that you need to buy and use, and there's maintenance costs and that kind of thing. But essentially, if there's any ways that you can kind of streamline things, to reduce your outgoings on purchasing, that will also have a positive impact on your carbon footprint. So yeah, please, like, have a look through that document, and see if you can find some organisations that might be able to help. Um, and if you want any more information on any of them, please, yeah, just drop me a line, and I'm happy to make kind of intro, or we can make introductions if that's helpful. Um, And then finally, before we go into the discussion, just wanted to show that, what we're doing in this program aligns with all the national initiatives that are in place. A few years ago, the Department for Education released a sustainability and climate change strategy, It's due to be refreshed now since the curriculum and assessment review came out, so that's it's likely to be refreshed. But the information that I've been getting is that it will continue with its kind of main activities that it's encouraging schools to do now. The two key ones are for schools to create a climate action plan and to have a sustainability lead. They've recommended that schools have those in place by in 2025. So there's not long to go to kind of fulfill that criteria. But I'm sure that they will be continue to encourage that. Um, if you want support with your climate action plan, again, in the resources for this program, there is a climate action plan template. It's one that we developed alongside Let's Go Zero, um, who they provide support for schools through climate action advisors. Yeah, Nell, if you could put the Let's Go Zero link in the chat. You can kind of get a climate action advisor to come and work with you to support you to develop your climate action plan. Another link that's really helpful is the sustainability support for education. That is a government funded initiative, which is a kind of an online platform where you can get information of you can kind of put in the steps that you're taking or that you want to take, and it recommends support. Zero Carbon Schools is a recommended support organization in that as well. And then the other two Department for Education funded initiatives are the Climate Ambassadors and the National Education Nature Park. Climate Ambassadors are volunteers which you can kind of apply to get to visit your school. They can work with you on kind of sort of procedural things like the climate action plan, or they can just or they can come in and do an assembly and work with your pupils. So whatever you're keen for. And then finally, the National Education Nature Park is a way of getting pupils involved with kind of mapping the school grounds and making them as kind of biodiverse and wildlife friendly as possible. So there's lots of kind of materials and resources on there about what you can do to make your school grounds as biodiverse as possible. So that's just a quick kind of roundup of all the government initiatives. Doing this zero carbon schools program ticks a lot of those boxes and kind of supports with a lot of the things that the Department for Education are encouraging schools to do. So I think that's a kind of a bit of a roundup and provides the background information that you need about the zero carbon schools program and your involvement with it. So we're going to kind of put people in breakout rooms now so that you can kind of have a discussion with each other and talk to each other about this. Nell, how are we doing on breakout rooms?
Yeah, all good. I was going to do three.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so when Nell gets those started, I've got the kind of questions there. Essentially, yeah, just an opportunity to talk to others, share your experiences. What have you done at your school to reduce its carbon footprint? And then also, obviously, cost pressures are such a key kind of, I imagine, a key element in your role. Just if you could discuss, how can reducing the school's carbon footprint also help to reduce costs? Or if you've come across, if you find the opposite has been the case, sometimes you're trying to reduce the carbon footprint and you find that it's incurred extra costs. That's another point for discussion if you want to explore that as well. So I'll stop share. And yeah, Nell, if you could get the breakout rooms going.